Welcome back to our So Spiritual Daily Show. My name is Bryndis. I'm a professional energy healer and energy coach, and I'm here to talk to you about energetic sensations, things that we as empaths or energetically sensitives perceive, and to make more sense of it. Today you see me sitting here in my winter poncho, and only 48 hours ago I was sitting here in my summer dress, and then we had a tornado warning here in central Florida, and there's absolutely no way to prepare for any of this. Today I want to talk to you about the future. What is my future? The current energetic situation here, just in case you're expecting this. I've been doing energy updates for many years, and I have barometers and all kinds of things. I have a little bit of a gauge here for you that can tell you sort of what the daily theme is. Okay, today we have a lot of fear coming, a lot of uncertainty. Okay, and so the gauge here will be in the place where we are not quite sure about how to handle things, how to deal with things, and we got to sit in this, all right? But before we get started, I want to say hi to everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm doing this live on Instagram and Facebook at the same time so that you can respond and share how you are feeling about the subjects that we are talking about, and also what is on your mind these days here between Christmas and New Year's, and what your personal challenges are right now. Today's theme, what is my future, has to do with this uncertainty that I just mentioned. So I determined the themes in the morning, when I can feel the collective energies coming in. And I would like to get started with asking you guys, who of you has ever asked a psychic or a clairvoyant about their future? Who of you has ever had a session with a psychic or like some kind of predictive type of service? I would love to hear from you guys how this went for you. Keep sending me hearts. Every time you push the heart button, I have these really cute hearts floating over the screen. All right. Okay, now we're talking. All right. Thank you for commenting, guys. Okay, and so there are quite a few of you who have. And Heather, this is interesting. You say that you actually identified that you used to be addicted to going to a psychic. That is interesting. And that's, yes, you have, but it didn't work that well. Okay, this is interesting now. Okay, so let's take this apart a little bit. You have experiences and they didn't really go that well. What do you think is the reason why going to someone else and letting them tell us about our future isn't usually that good of an idea? And also, I would love to hear from those of you who've had really positive experiences. I personally had very positive experiences visiting a clairvoyant, and I did this the last time probably about 20 years ago, and a lot of what she predicted to me is actually true now. No, 20 years ago, it made no sense. And, this is actually longer than, it's 25 years ago. Because she predicted, kids, and that I would be a healer one day. And at the time, that didn't make no sense. Today, I have 3 kids, and I am a healer. So, how is that possible, to contextualize when, in the moment? Okay, so for you, for some of you, these things came true. Does clairvoyance, does working with the psychic, does looking into your future through somebody else, did this or does this help you to make decisions? And how do these decisions usually turn out? What is your guys' take on that? Okay, so like in my case, sometimes it can help to bring clarity. Yes, and guess what? I used to read cards for people. This is actually how this all started for me. So when I was a child, I always felt drawn to cards, and not the tarot cards, but the regular playing cards. And I used to be able to see things for people through the cards. I stopped doing this. Why did I stop laying cards and predicting the future for people? Yes, Cindy, I love what you say. The best were the ones that left an opening for timelines. And what is happening here over the years? So with all the spiritual awakening, guys, with everything in this world speeding up, our ability to see through some of these timelines and to perceive energies more consciously, things have shifted. And nowadays it's almost impossible, I want to say, even though, I just shared with you that I generally have the ability to predict the future for a person. And why is that? It is because the energies of the future, the timelines that are available, okay, they have sped up so much that it appears to be the much better thing to do, to teach a person how to read those timelines, how to read those propensities, how to understand their own purpose, so that they can actually become a more active participant in their future. So when you're talking to me, you're talking to someone who has done this before and changed the way I go about things. Today I teach people how to heal themselves, how to see into their own future, how to become this co-creator of their future. And why do I prefer this today? Because the way energies are speeding up for us, and this is a side effect of this collective awakening, it is practically impossible to say what a person will choose in the future if they are actually working on themselves. So if we work with our own consciousness, if we work with our perception, if we work on transcending some of the stuff that is subconscious for us, all right, and learn how to access all of this and do a little bit of homework here, then we can actually create a future. Yes, Annette, and that's exactly why I've chosen to change this, to not do this anymore, because it gives the person the feeling that they are somehow reliant on somebody else to tell them what the right choices are. You had the feeling that you weren't really given the tools to get there. Yes, and it leaves you waiting. This is a really good point here. Cindy, it leaves you waiting. And this is then what creates this, what we call externalization of our power. This is then what creates, us becoming addicted to any kind of prediction or clairvoyant or psychic in our life, because we're not really trusting in our own ability to feel what the future wants to bring in. So there is, a connection between our subconscious and our future. And of course, as most of us already know, this is linked into karma, but it's also linked into our true soul's purpose. So when it comes to our future, guys, the only way to really feel what is our soul's purpose and what is, bringing in, or what can bring in abundance and love and wealth and fulfillment into our life, is to actually sit in it, is to actually feel it, is to actually make an effort to connect with our own hearts, with our own precognitive abilities. And you as empaths, you as energetically sensitives, guys, you are already prompted to do this. This is why many of us have such a hard time with future, because the reality that we choose to perceive, okay, say the reality that comes in through the news, the movies, social media, songs that we listen to, and how other people perceive things, is often not congruent. It doesn't match up with what we feel inside, how the future should be, or how we see our own future. Now, there is a part, of course, where our ego fills in the blanks. That is when we fantasize or when we idealize. That's when we go into this place, within where we create mental constructs around our future, and they make us then sort of see only a narrow piece of it. And often, at transCODES, I talk a lot about this. This leads to a little bit of fragmentation within, because then we're trying to match our 3D reality to this ideal or this mental construct. And what this does to us is that we are constantly hearing this critical inner voice, this I need to, I have to, I should have, why didn't I see this earlier? And so this can also be some of the problems with working with the psychic, is that somebody tells you, sort of what's going to happen or what's not going to happen, and then you basically let go of your power to participate in that, and then all you do is constantly comparing. It just added another mental construct for you, and now you're comparing what is happening with what the psychic said. Can you guys relate to that? That where you constantly feel like, oh, I'm not living up to this ideal, or I'm not living up to what the psychic told me what was going to happen. Yes, Heather, thank you for commenting that energy work can indeed close the bridge, or close the gap, can build a bridge between, our ego wanting to know what is in the future, because it makes us feel like we're in more control, or it makes us at least feel like we don't have to be afraid of the future. This is the funny thing about our ego, guys. If I predict you, that you're going to go through a total disaster tomorrow, okay, and the total disaster happens tomorrow, your ego is going to be happy with it to a certain degree. Not like happy. You can still, of course, suffer or, think that this is a misery. But your ego is going to say, oh, I knew this was going to happen. I expected that. And you got to understand this. This is my tip for you here, when it comes to dealing with the future. The reason why we work with all these mental constructs is to create something like a projection of the future that can give us the feeling of control. So in other words, this critical inner voice in us, right, that constantly points out what we're not doing right, and that this is probably going to lead to a total disaster, and that actually comes from the fear within, the fear of not being in control, but simultaneously creates sort of a pessimistic outlook on future, right? That part in us, the more active that is, the more you can actually tell that you are trying to control the future, because by creating these negative versions, these negative projections of the future, you literally setting yourself up, you're preparing yourself for the disaster or the crisis or the drama to happen. And our ego, some of our egos like drama, but for the most part, our ego likes things that it's familiar with. So it's a really twisted thing, by projecting sort of negativity into the future, pessimism and so forth, we're calming our ego down in the sense that when it happens, we can say to ourselves, well, I knew this was going to happen, and it feels in control. And you already see the problem with this, the problem with seeing into the future through this mental construct and this negativity that comes in through our fear and the uncertainty that is around us, sets us up. It aligns us to a certain timeline, as we talked about in the beginning. And my tip for you guys is that you really pay attention to what you align yourself to. It is a normal function of your ego to trying to prepare for worst case scenario. But what you really do is you're energizing this negative future for yourself. You do well what you dwell on, guys. And you know, what you resist persists. So if you keep resisting the fact that you simply can't control the future, but that you can be a part of it, and that you can face it, and that you can set yourself up for, you know, being able to most positively participate in your future, then you have a lot more abilities available to you. And let me tell you, I mean, this is something where most energy workers and psychics and clairvoyants in the world agree. This speeding up of energies through these continued expansion and global awakening waves has also sped up our manifestation in both ways, guys. So, you know, anything that you project that is negative into your future is now going to manifest much faster. And guess what? Your ego is going to love that, and it's going to continue creating negativity into, or projecting negativity in the future, because it feels in control. It is so twisted how our ego sort of messes with our perception of reality, and especially with the perception of our future. So what's the way out? And guys, please comment here. You know, I do this live so I can work with your guys' sharings here, and also, of course, don't forget to push the like button here and send some hearts over my screen. Okay, this is a very positive affirmation for me when I see those hearts coming in. Okay, so how can we break through this? How can we more or less create a more positive, a more affluent, a more abundant future for ourselves? So primarily, the first step that I want to give you is to stop projecting negativity into the future. You have to become aware of the subconscious function of your ego, all right? The worst case scenario. You have to stop that. You have to catch yourself and making yourself aware that this is exactly how you are creating this negativity. Okay, this is exactly how you're setting yourself up. You're aligning your energy to negativity and pessimism. Okay, the next thing is you got to face the part, you know, that is underneath that. I mean, why you do this in the first place? You do this in the first place because you're afraid of the future, because it is something that you cannot control, because it is something where maybe a memory of the past, you know, a pain memory of the past looms, and you're afraid to having to face this pain again. Guys, pain is one of the best learning and maturing tools for us humans. It helps us to appreciate the moment. It helps us to learn and avoid things that can, you know, be destructive or indeed negative for us. So pay attention to pain. Your fear of the pain, or the fear of the fear, okay, is what messes with you. It is not the pain itself. Who of you guys has experienced like a really dramatic, you know, big crisis in your life, and it, you know, and you felt super desperate, and then what? After a year or two, it turns out that this was the most transformative experience that you've had, and that this really bumped you into a more positive future. Who of you have had something like this happen? A crisis that turned into a most beautiful emergence. Send me another heart, okay, if you have had crises that turned out to be, you know, pains, you know, things that you had to go through that turned out to be, you know, like really sort of life-changing or transformative events. that set you up for a more positive future. Yes, divorce, an accident, a disease, yes, losing something. Wonderful. This is wonderful, guys. This is really important for others to see too. Okay, and this is probably the most important message here for the future, guys. Okay, we don't need to control future. If you want to really feel, that you are working with your soul's purpose, you have to go into the present moment and appreciate everything about your present moment, not as in sucking up dysfunctional circumstances. No, as in like seeing yourself as going through something and growing with it. Okay, by trying to control the future, by setting yourself up for negativity, you are denying your own, your birthright, to change your future. So don't resist what you're experiencing. This is the third tip here for you. Sit in it and become more aware of what it is that you're experiencing and what it is that you're energizing and what it is that you're afraid of. And this then allows you to gap this bridge between the present moment, the past, and the future. You need to feel that these match up, and that's when you become the co-creator of your future. That's when you will feel more in charge of your life. And that's when you don't need, to set yourself up for negativity. That's when you don't need other people to tell you what to do. This is when you literally step out of the collective karmic experience. Yes, don't be afraid of the pain. Thank you, Cindy, for sharing this. Sit in your pain, breathe through it, center in your heart. Focus on self-love and self-care. What can make me feel better right now? Okay, shift your energy into a higher vibratory state, into a place where you can reconnect with positivity. Don't resist pain. Don't resist your fear. Acknowledge it. Say, I am fucking scared right now, and that's okay. You're giving this expression, and that too is an appreciation. That too is appreciating the current moment. And with this, let me assure you, you are setting a whole new sort of timeline for yourself. You're creating a positive feedback loop. And in a future, session here, if it's so spiritual, we're going to talk a little more about the mechanics of how to connect with your future self and how to actually, change your future. For today, I just wanted, to really send out the message that it's okay to feel afraid of the future. These are very transformative, very intense times right now, and it triggers our ego. But you got to understand that the very thing your ego comes up with, to cope with this fear, this uncertainty, is also what sets you up for a negative future. So you're gonna have to work with this. Do not shy away from acknowledging how you feel, and that you are afraid. And one more thing that can help you guys is talk to others. There are so many empaths out there. There are so many energetically sensitive people out there, that see the world like you do. You don't have to live in this fragmentation, where how you feel things from the inside doesn't match up with the outside, and you think you are crazy or you think they are crazy. These are all things that it increase the resistance in you. You don't need that. Find people who see the world like you do. This is what people like me and so many other wonderful healers and light workers and energy workers out there do. In meditation groups and conscious living communities and in webinars or whatever, go find these places where there's more people like you who see things differently. Just because it doesn't match up inside of you doesn't mean, that you are in woo-woo land. And just because it's real within you also doesn't mean that it is true. So there is this discernment piece that we all need to work with, and the only way to get there, guys, is to really sit in it, to really go in your heart, center yourself, breathe through your heart, release those things that are binding you, and you will begin to see a more positive future. Thank you so much for being here today. Yes, share those videos. Help me to spread this. This is social media. You know the game. Without you, I can't do anything here on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. Okay, so subscribe to my newsletter if you would like to get more info, or come to my Facebook group that is free, or the forum that we have for empaths. There's so many opportunities to connect with others. But most of all, thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.